Afternoon, and good day wherever you may be joining us from. Welcome to another edition of the Digital Download, which is the longest running weekly business talk show on LinkedIn Live, now globally syndicated on the IBGN radio network.
That's it.
Today, we're mastering humor in the workplace. We have a special guest, Jan McInnis, to help us with the discussion. From writing for The Tonight Show to empowering top organizations like the Mayo Clinic and the Federal Reserve, Jan currently travels the country showing business leaders how to use humor at work and marketing gurus how to use it in their message. But before we bring Jan on, let's go around the set and introduce everyone. While we're doing that, why don't you in the audience reach out to a friend, ping them, and have them join us? We strive to make the digital download an interactive experience. Audience participation is highly encouraged. So with that, introductions.
Hi, Rob. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much. I'm really looking forward today. As I said before we went live, I've got my laughter pants on, and I said that I meant that in a US way rather than a UK way. And just to introduce myself, my name's Tim Hughes. I'm the CEO and I'm the co-founder of DLA Ignite. And I'm also famous for writing the book, Social Selling Techniques to Influence Buyers and Changemakers.
Excellent. Welcome. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Adam.
Hi, everyone. I'm Adam Gray. I'm Tim's business partner. Interesting, we always used to start this show with a joke, didn't we? And it seems very appropriate that today we're not doing exactly that.
Nobody wants to try and out-funny the comedian.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. So it's great to be here, as it always is.
Excellent. Thank you. Glad to have you. And myself, I'm Rob Durant. I am the founder of Flywheel Results and a proud DLA Ignite partner. Before I introduce the guest, I wanted to speak to one of the comments from the audience already. Mark Callison says, humor at work. Adam Gray, are you in the green room?
It's actually blue rather than green because there's a blue blind. But okay. Yes, it does look that way, doesn't it?
That it does. As I said, this week on the Digital Download, we'll speak with Jan McInnis, a seasoned comedian, author, and keynote speaker. Jan will share with us her expert insights on using humor as a strategic tool in the workplace. Let's bring her on.
Hello.
Jan.
Hello, Jan.
Good morning and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You bet. Jan, let's start by having you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got here.
It's a long story.
We got an hour.
Oh, great. Been doing this, over 20 years, this comedy keynote speaking, comedy writing thing. Started as everyone else in a regular day job, when I was a kid, I always wanted to be a comedian, thought it would be kind of fun. You got to do something for a living, right? And I remember going to college and graduating from college, having that nice dinner with your family at night at the restaurant and thinking, now is not the time to tell my parents I want to be a comedian. They just spent a bunch of money. So, I went into the workforce and just kind of always had that comedy interest. I didn't come from an entertainment family. There was no path that I knew of. I always thought that, entertainment was for someone else. And finally just tried it and I had a lot of starts and stops, but I always did well. I got into a Jay Leno comedy contest, which was a nationwide search for a comedian to get on the Tonight Show. I didn't win my local comedy club contest, but I got written up in the paper and I'd never been on stage. So, things like that. And finally I just took the plunge and a lot of starts and stops and went on at an open mic and got hired from that and decided I'm doing this. And a few more years of my day job, ended up leaving it, going into stand-up comedy full-time on the road with comedy clubs, and then got into kind of doing corporate comedies, which was great because it wasn't as many nights and weekends and the pay was better and the flights were better and there was not driving my car into the ground. and then got into keynote speaking. So just sort of a long, weird path. I'm doing a career that I didn't even know existed. I didn't know a keynote speaker. I didn't know all this convention stuff when I started out. So
fantastic.
Here we are.
Want to jump into it with some questions, but before we do, we have a couple of comments from the audience. We have Asad Kazmi saying, "What an uplifting topic to explore."
Oh, no, it isn't.
Oh, there's always one heckler in the crowd.
Yeah, that's why we have Adam. And then we have a longtime friend of the show, Andrew Slesser, saying, "Good morning, good afternoon, all. This is when we wave," and we allegedly believe that Andrew waves back. And then Mark shares with us again, "Someone recently asked me why I left my last job. The answer is that the company relocated and didn't tell me where." But Jan, it might be one of those mornings. So much for not
the comedian. Yeah.
That's right.
That's okay.
So I'm here all night.
Jen, let's start with a foundational question.
Yeah.
Presuming that we should, why should we use humor in the workplace? Isn't the business world a very serious business?
It is. And first of all, I'm going to just let me clarify. When I say humor in the workforce, I'm not talking about bump jokes. I'm not talking about, hey, I'll be here all night. That was funny. But really not talking about trying to be a comedian and trying to do, I do three or four jokes a minute when I'm on stage and doing my comedy act. That's not what we're talking about. We're trying to talk about just using some well-placed humor. And again, we're not trying to make it killer belly laugh funny. You're just trying to kind of get people to relax, laugh, make a connection with others in the workplace. You're not trying to, it's annoying. Isn't it annoying when someone, like I have comedian friends, hope they're not on this, that are always on. And that drives you nuts. You can't have a regular, normal conversation with someone. But no, humor at work is just finding the funny things, pointing them out, and it great benefits. I mean, it makes you approachable, makes a quick connection with people. Don't you feel like you can talk with someone who's kind of used a little bit of humor? You kind of, oh, good, they're kind of open. They're kind of a fun person. So it's a nice way to make a quick connection with people. You can diffuse a little tension, get everyone kind of take a breath if you've got a stressful situation or you've got a stressful staff. You sit down to a staff meeting and you've just had some big thing go on. Everyone's tense. If you just maybe toss out a little bit of humor or, a little, funny top 3 things we hate about this thing that just happened, get people to kind of take a breath and change the energy a little bit. Lots of great benefits to using humor at work. And again, not being the annoying comedian that rattles off jokes every single time you run into them. People start avoiding you. Okay?
You mean like Mark?
I'm Mark.
Oh, I'm not going to hurt any of your.
That's fine.
Okay, good.
Tell Mark's joke, Rob.
Okay, sure. Last one, Mark. My doctor asked me to start a sales presentation with a joke, so I shared my paycheck as the first slide. It's all in the delivery. MD, managing director, not doctor. Okay.
So yeah. Mark is your resident comedian? I'm not sure who that is.
Yeah.
Cool.
So Jan, you said that humor in the workplace is not a stand-up routine.
No.
So what then are the rules for using humor, especially in business?
Well, a couple of rules in business. First of all, use your common sense. Sex, drugs, rock and roll, probably politics, stay away from. Couple of big ones. And again, when you're in a comedy club, there's no rules. Be funny. That's your rule. But when you're in a work environment and you're just trying to point out some humor or start off with something, first of all, don't make fun of any group that you are not a member of. Meaning, if you're bald, you can, Tim, Adam, you can make fun of bald. If you're overweight, you can make fun of that. If you've had a divorce, you can make fun of your divorce. But don't make fun of someone else if you don't belong in that sort of group. And you can't, it's not something part of you. Watch going for the low shots. I mean, you don't want to be, sometimes they're really easy to make fun of someone or something, but you don't know, you don't want to hurt people's feelings. A good example, I guess, I did an event one time of 4,400 people, and they ran out of dinner for 1,500 people, and it was plated, and it was their employee appreciation banquet. All right. So the easy shot would be for me to go on stage and pull the curtain and look behind the curtain and go, hey, I found him. But the meeting planner was backstage crying. And this is probably 15 years ago. But she was back there crying because she was, had really messed up. And to throw her under the bus and make a mean shot, wouldn't be nice. So, watch the easy low shots, watch the obvious stuff. I did an event for Blind Merchants Association, and your first thought is, I was like the only sighted person in the room, so you want to get on stage and, hey, I'm naked. Don't do that. Okay. Because they said, and they wrote in my contract, we have heard every blind joke. You cannot make blind jokes. We've heard them all. So, don't do it. And they had a very good sense of humor, but they've heard it all. I did a show for postmasters, and my friends were like, oh yeah, going postal, it was back when all those issues were happening. I'm like, no, that's not funny to them. They're not funny to a lot of people, but the postmasters have lived through this stuff. To watch kind of the easy shots that could be hurtful. And I'm not saying you have to be all politically correct and you can't be, yourself, but just watch being the easy shots. I would say one of the big rules too would be just do what you think is funny too. I mean, aside from that, pull the humor out. Do something what you truly, if you think knock jokes are funny, do those. You'll sell those better, and you'll have fun doing it. So pull the humor out that makes you funny, makes you think something's funny. Don't be looking around, does someone else think this is funny? See what you think is funny.
So I'm not a particularly funny person.
I hear that a lot. Yep.
How can I use humor in business?
You are though, Rob. Honestly,
looks aren't everything.
There you go. See?
Self-depreciating. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
For those of you listening on the radio, Rob is actually naked.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Oh, there we go again. All right.
Well, but we can only see his shirt, so yeah, we don't know.
Yeah. So this is true. So how can I use humor in business if I don't think of myself as a funny person?
Okay. Well, first of all, humor is kind of a muscle. You have to kind of work it. Many comedians, I wouldn't say most, but many are not naturally funny. I never thought myself was naturally funny, where, the Robin Williams and the, I'm not sure what UK comedians are, well, you've got a lot of big ones over there, but so stop thinking that you can't do it. Start looking around for the humor. It's sort of a muscle. You want to start practicing. Comedians, we just know where to look because we've been doing it so long that it instantly. Well, yesterday I got. It's been pouring rain here in Los Angeles, and I got my water bill in the mail, and it was soaked. I'm like, oh, that's a little ironic. I was at a casino working a corporate event recently, and I walked by a room. Thankfully, it was not my hotel room. But the maid was in there cleaning and she was smoking. I mean, okay, little irony there. So comedy, a lot of comedy is finding the irony in situations, pulling out sort of the disconnects, the things that don't make sense. So start looking around. I mean, we go to the same job every day. We do the same commute. We don't pay attention. And there's so many funny things that go right by you without paying attention. So start looking around, first of all, and start trying to point them out, at least for yourself,
Andrew Slesser has a question that I find insightful. How does self-depreciating humor work within the workplace?
What do you mean? As far as, I think it's a great way.
Why would I want to show my employer and those that I work with my faults?
Well, you're not necessarily your faults. I mean, if you're talking about, I don't know, like I do jokes about my big feet. I have a size 12 AAA, which is a very large foot.
Wow.
Yes, thank you very much. Making me feel good already. You can joke about some things like that aren't, you don't have to go in and say, yeah, I really screwed up that report yesterday. We're not going to get that, that client. You can use it about yourself I don't think it's pointing out faults. People know, well, they usually don't know if you've got a large foot, but they know if you're bald or if you're on a diet and you're trying to diet, people can relate to that. And you can have some fun about, I had to eat, carrots today or whatever was on the diet that day. So, and it kind of connects people to you. You get that instant connection. It's not, you don't have to be mean to yourself and put yourself down. You just point out some funny things that have happened to you.
So, what are some ways for finding humor in the workplace?
Well, pulling out ironies is a great way to start looking around at what are the disconnects, what are the things that don't make sense. And after a while, they just pop out at you, and you start looking around. Finding, if you want to show people you have, you can do, I don't know, if you're writing a memo and you want to get people's attention. One part of using humor in a workplace is grab people's attention. All right. You want to have some fun. You want to get people to read your email or something. Have a fun subject line, say something counterintuitive, that people, I don't know, cats are better than kids or something counterintuitive that makes people go, oh, wow, what's she talking about? And then you kind of look in, it's sort of like a headline. Have some fun with that, or change around if you want to, an idiom. Idioms are like, give me an example of an idiom, like a penny saved is a penny earned, a penny saved is a penny earned, and change that around a little bit to make it funnier. Penny saved is a penny earned. So unless it's on your, I'm not doing a very good job at the last at 6 a.m. coming up with a quick idiom, but change an idiom. You can do some fast things. People recognize idioms. Oh, that's funny. Change it around to work with you, and using a little bit of humor. And
so we've got some really interesting comments, a conversation going on between Mark and Andrew in the audience, where Mark has said, depending on your role in an organization, you really need to consider how the audience interprets what and how you say things. Get humor wrong and you can lose credibility with some employees. And then Andrew says, for me, it shows that you're willing to make yourself the butt of the joke, which I guess makes you more approachable and more friendly.
Human, yeah.
Human, yeah. And then Andrew says it's about knowing your audience, which I guess it is, but I guess to a certain extent, it depends on your role within the business, doesn't it? So
yeah.
If you lead a team of gung-ho salespeople, then actually it's a bit of a laugh and it's a bit of fun. And, I'm going to use an idiom. I'll pick Rob because he's really stupid. Oh, no, that's idiot.
See?
No, but, I mean, you crack the jokes and it's a bit of fun. But if you're the chief executive of a large organization with shareholders and investors, particularly if it's having a tough time, probably humor is I don't know.
Absolutely.
Is it still usable?
Right. Know your audience. If you're going into a meeting where it's, and I say, first of all, you're trying to diffuse a little bit of tension. Don't use humor if there's a lot of anger. If you're angry about something or the situation is, don't use it because it comes off badly. You're just trying to get people to take a breath and have some fun. If you're the CEO, I've joked around with CEOs at companies, and they've said to me later, "Thank you for making me look human to the staff." But again, it's not mean humor. It's not like, oh, look at him. He's, weighs 800 pounds and all, you don't do that. You can find a little bit of humor in the day-to-day stuff. I mean, you're not a CEO. You don't have to do the self-deprecating, but you could find a little bit of humor in, what you ate on your diet today or what you did on the way to work. And it doesn't mean you're making yourself look bad to your employees. Certainly the type of humor you use is really important. And again, if it's a really, meeting where you feel you can't use humor, don't. Start with smaller, easier meetings and build up. Comedians start with, 3 minutes at an open mic, and then we build to 60, 90 minutes because you can't do a lot of humor. So try to just do it, add it in gradually and in easy spots where you think you'll get a little bit of success. And do it. Don't do it thinking I'm going to be a comedian or I'm going to add this humor in. Do it casually, and don't put a lot of pressure on yourself. Oh, I hope they laugh when I say this. Just point out something funny. Start something funny, or kick off a conversation with something funny that you noticed on the way to work or whatever, and get into it that way, you know?
So are the rules different for leaders when it comes to using humor?
I would say you would have to, well, you have to know your audience. I think you're not going to stand around I don't know if they have a water cooler anymore in the office, and and joke about some things, but I think you can still use humor, but you have to, be careful of, make sure it's sort of either self-deprecating or just sort of observational or something, not, you've got a lot of inside knowledge. You obviously can't do that. So maybe a little bit, but not, but the overall rule is you're not trying to be a comedian. You're not trying to, do a stand-up act in there.
Okay. You mentioned emails. What are the key elements to consider when using humor in professional communications like emails or presentations?
Well, I don't know if there's any rules. I would say know your audience. Certainly make sure it really is obviously you're joking, like you're obvious, because some people can take emails the wrong way. But, if you, start out with, I don't know, my dog ate my homework or whatever, people know that's a joke. If you start out with something, I guess you could put the little LOL emoji after it, but just make sure it's an obvious joke and it's not or obvious humor. I keep wanting to not say joke because people are going to think you're going to have to write a setup and a punchline, and you're not in the office. You're just going to use a little bit of humor. But I like the sales idea when you mention with the sales, because I think a lot of salespeople are missing the idea of using humor to connect with their clients and potential clients. And, you want to do business with people that are fun, that you want to hang around a water cooler with and talk with. You want to do business with them. You want to, buy from them. You want to hang out with them. So I think salespeople are missing the mark a lot of times on not using a little more humor in their sales presentations. And there's ways they can do it. There's easy ways. If you're a salesperson, you don't have to have joke, but you could put some humor in your bio. Hey, Steve was a football player. After getting tackled by 300-pound guys for a few years, he decided it'd be easier to go into sales. Something. So have some fun with the bio, and don't just make it boring and nobody wants to read. I look on a lot of pages with companies are about our company, and certainly you want to be serious, but you could have some fun facts. You don't have to have all, we were started by John Smith in 1869, and add in some fun facts that about the company, or about the year the company was started, or why the company, have a fun top list about why was the company started. There's places you can add humor that show you have a humor muscle, and you don't have to come right out and say, hey, I'm funny, sit down and listen to this joke. Cartoons, you see someone with a cartoon, like the little cartoon on their desk, they like humor, that kind of opens the door, and okay, there used to be calendars with cartoons and such, and gives people an idea that you have a sense of humor.
So we talked a little bit about email and presentations. I'm hesitant to go there, but what about social media?
Yeah. Well, you're competing with a lot out there. Everyone thinks or tries to think they're funny. But you want, certainly, I find when I'm using social media, and of course I'm a comedian, but there's funny, weird signs. I put the water bill thing on my social media yesterday, just saying that, I can't believe my water bill is soaking wet. So you can certainly show you have a humor muscle by putting some of that on. But again, don't be mean about it. Don't be, a lot of people go viral in social media for embarrassing things. I know someone got really sick on a plane recently, and everyone was making jokes. Don't jump on the bandwagon for those kind of things. Just have some fun with what you see that's funny, what you think is funny, and for me, I think the non-harmful, jokes that aren't the easy mean are the best.
Yeah.
And I guess that making yourself the punchline.
Yeah, a lot of times you could do that, certainly. Yeah, make yourself the punchline. Show there's so many. I mean, just signs. If you really pay attention, people put up some funny signs. Over as I drive the country, a lot of the highways they're just now deciding to take away some of the signs. But the highway workers used to have a lot of funny signs as you're driving down the highway. I loved it because it shows you have a sense of humor. It makes you want to read it. Of course, sometimes they're kind of long and you take your eyes off the road a little too long, but it makes you read it, gets you a chuckle, and it kind of makes you do something. Using humor is a sort of a say it without saying it. It kind of moves you in a direction to do something. So I thought those were good. I'm sorry that they're going to stop taking them down. So.
There's a music venue in London called the O2, and you get to it. Well, I get to it via as what we would call the tube, the underground.
Uh-huh.
And as you come out of the underground, there is a whiteboard, and the tube staff, what they always do is that if the band's on, they write a story using the names of the songs from the So if it was the Eagles, we were at the Hotel California, and
it is so many creative ways to use humor like that. That again, not joke, but there's so many creative ways in your business, in your personal life, on your marketing that people are missing. You can certainly get the facts over, you can certainly get the information you need over, but how about a little bit of fun? Add some fun into it. I love going to I don't know, Wikipedia or different places to find unusual facts about things and add it in to your story. That's a great idea with the songs. Get people to laugh and, oh yeah, that song, I remember that. And it makes people stop and read it, gets people kind of excited for the concert. Great idea.
So the reason that I'm using humor is to humanize me and make me more accessible and less intimidating to people. Is that right?
Yeah, one reason for sure. I mean, it's a good way, like I said, to diffuse tension. If you sit down to a staff meeting and you want to kind of kick off with something, like a top list of if something really weird just happened, no more free coffee in the break room, something like that, and the top 3 reasons we hate this, or you can acknowledge. It's a way to acknowledge too something that's on everyone's mind. Sort of get the big elephant out on the table. So a way to acknowledge what's on everyone's mind without going up and saying, "Hey, I know we just did this big policy that everyone hates," But if you don't talk about it, if you sit down to a staff meeting, everyone hates this new policy, and you're not going to talk about it, people are still thinking, "Oh my goodness, she doesn't know or he doesn't know what we're going through." They're not going to address this at all. But with humor, it's a great way to address it quick and move on. You watch comedians on stage; a lot of them will. We talk about addressing what people see first. As a comedian, if you walk on stage and you're really tall, or you're really overweight, or you have a noticeable disability, or you look like a famous comedian, you want to address that right away. Otherwise, people are going to spend the whole time staring at you going, "God, does he look like, no, he looks like Jerry Seinfeld. Does he know?" They're not going to move on until you go out and say one. You don't have to talk at length. I've got a friend of mine, Brett Leake, very funny comedian. He has muscular dystrophy. He has one joke about it. He doesn't do his whole act because he goes out, boom, addresses, and moves on. And it's brilliant. And the same in the office. If you've had something big happen, you can address it real quick with a little bit of humor, switch around an idiom, add some top lists, pull out the irony in it, have some fun with it a little bit so the people know what they're going through.
So how important is that contextual relevance versus, can I just tell any old knock-knock joke?
If you like knock-knock jokes, you'll be known as the knock-knock joke guy. Like I said earlier, do the humor that you think is funny. You will sell it better. You'll have fun doing it. You'll get a few people to laugh. And again, you're not trying to get everyone to fall over laughing off their chair. Don't expect that. But you want to do more. But there's not really one, aside from a few of the rules we talked about earlier, not one standard for everyone. What do you like to point out? Do you like to point out the funny thing you saw on the way to work? Do you like to talk about your dog that, that does funny stuff? I don't know. All sorts of stuff you can point out and have fun with. Whatever makes you laugh.
We have a question from the audience. Asad Kazmi says, Jan, could you share a memorable example of how humor has diffused a challenging situation in the workplace?
I'll tell you one of my stories.
Sure.
Because I use it, I'm brought up in a lot of events, and what I do mostly keynotes now, but I've done a lot of corporate comedy, and I've been brought up after really weird stuff. They've read off the list of people in the organization who died. They've done, and then they send you out there, and you got to be funny. All right. I did an awards banquet years ago, and they gave out, I'm not making this up, 292 service pins. It was for years of service at the healthcare place. 292 people got up, walked to the stage, got their pin, walked back. We literally sat at the table, crossing them off. And about midnight or so, they sent me up there. And so I can't go right into my act. People don't even want to be there. The people that stayed. So I kicked off with, good evening, everyone. I think I got my 5-year service pin just sitting here, and got everyone connected instantly with the crowd. And the people that were on the fence of staying stayed, right? I didn't do the hour I was going to do. You'd have to also use your brain on that. But I kind of pointed out what was going on in the room, what everyone's on everyone's mind, and kind of diffused the tension and got people to go, okay, we're going to listen, we can stay for a little bit longer. So yeah, there's a lot of ways to kind of diffuse some tension and kick off a tough conversation, use a little bit of humor,
Do you have any exercises or things that you practice regularly to help you develop quick-witted humor?
I would say the looking around your environment a lot. I mean, really pay attention to when you're driving, excuse me, or when you're going out to the store or to your office. Really start looking for the ironies, the disconnects, the things that don't make sense. After a while, they just pop out at you. If you get we are using so many acronyms, have some fun and you try to make up a different words for the acronyms, and after a while, they just kind of pop out, and you can start doing that a little more and have some fun with it. We use so many acronyms, nobody knows what those mean anyway. Okay. So just have some fun with it. And after a while, it'll kind of come more naturally.
Rob said there's some great comments if you go down. So there's I can push it up, can't I? So Oliver said an idiom, we'll burn that bridge when we get to it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay.
Isn't that great?
Yeah. We'll burn that bridge. Yeah, see? That's funny. So and those are easy things. Good thing with idioms and top lists and things like that. They're familiar to people. They think you go in one direction, you go a different direction. But they're familiar, so people stop and listen or stop and read it or whatever. And it's a way to show you've got a humor muscle without saying it. Some people don't want to say the humor, but there's ways to show you're funny, or that you have a sense of humor without actually getting out there and saying it. Like I said, cartoons, on your desk, idioms, top lists, things like that.
And Azad makes a really good comment, which is, can we consider humor synonymous with sarcasm? And I think it's really
yeah.
I think it's difference.
Yeah, but you know what? Watch when you're doing the sarcasm that is. I like sarcastic humor, but don't do it. There is a bit of delivery when you do sarcasm.
The problem with sarcasm is that it's often seen as bullying.
So, yeah. So you have, you have to be a little careful on sarcasm and and it really is how you say it. I mean, if you say a joke one way and another comedian says a joke another way, people take it two different ways, So
who was it that said sarcasm is the lowest form of wit?
Oh, really?
And then someone said that wit was the highest form of humor.
Somebody doesn't like humor. Oh, yeah. No, I mean, use it all. Use everything in your toolbox with what you feel comfortable with. again.
I had a sales guy. We were doing an account review, and he meant to say he was talking to the head honcho because he tended to talk in cliches, but he said that he was talking to the head poncho.
Funny, yeah, changing. And you mentioned joking around with leadership. Sometimes they know when you're in the company eye, not making fun of the CEOs and the leaders, but they know when they go to a conference, something can be a little bit of poked fun at, right? Because they're the people that are sort of in the spotlight. So, kind of goes without saying, you can have sometimes a little bit of fun. I have done events one time where they said, "Don't talk to our CEO," but don't make. And it's like, okay, fine. I always ask, is there something? Are there things in the office that I can have some fun with that people know? Like, I don't know, the computer system goes down all the time or whatever. I also ask, are there people? Do we know something about, like, Joe golfs all the time and he likes to golf, and we can have some fun with that. So some parameters when I'm trying to figure out what I can joke with.
So Mark Harrison says, what talks. I think he's talking about himself. When you were looking for a job in a senior role, he was told by a consultant to actually accentuate his fun side. Mark is the person who's been telling the jokes that we've been reading out.
He's not employed because those jokes were. No, I'm joking. All right.
He says his LinkedIn profile states a person-centered leader with a huge sense of fun.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah. So sometimes in your bio, outright say it that you're fun. That kind of opens the door for people to come up and tell you jokes, or come up and joke with you. They know they can talk with you. Yeah.
And Ian Bratt says, I was known as a punny person at work.
Okay.
Yeah. He also responded to your banter between Adam and
Except
Tim.
for puns.
Sarcasm is the lowest form of wit, except for puns. Yes.
Oh.
I wanted to bring up this question, though. This one I think is important to clarify. Cheryl Valabos, I tried.
Lists.
I missed something. Are you saying topless?
I have. You know what? I have to write that one out sometimes.
Yeah.
Top lists. Top things.
Top list, as in top 10 list, top X list. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't have to be 10. You could be.
Yeah. Top 3, whatever, but not top list. That's a different show entirely.
And
not fit for radio.
and Cheryl, that's coming from Facebook.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
It's not coming from I don't know, it was TikTok or something.
Well, we normally get them. Most of the traffic we get, Jan, comes from LinkedIn. So getting something from Facebook. We got something from X. I think it was the last week or the week after, which we'd never had anything from before.
Nice. All right, breaking new ground with our humor.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And then Mark shares, you also need to consider different international location. Humor or sarcasm in one country may be interpreted as bullying in another.
Right.
And that's not just geographically, that's thinking culturally as well, isn't it?
Yes. And I'll tell you, I early on in my comedy career, I got myself in a little bit of a pickle, because I did I had a nice call with the group, and they gave me some great. It was a company, I won't say what they did, but it was a company you could have a lot of fun with, and they gave me some great information about the company, and it was the what they sold was very funny, and so I went on stage and did a few jokes about it and was just killing. But the CEO, who was not U.S. born, was sitting at the table, and the glare could have killed me. I mean, he hated me, and I did about 4 jokes in, and it was killing. And I mean, at one point I stepped so I could get the centerpiece in between me and him. So, and I thought, and the jokes weren't mean at all. They were just funny, light, jokes about some of the product. But I stopped after and went into my act, and had a great show after that, except for him. He didn't like me at all after that. Later they said, "Oh my goodness, we didn't we didn't take into account our CEO that doesn't think it's funny to have fun about the joke about the company, even though they were not mean. They was not making fun of the product. I was joking around it and just having some fun in general. And so I learned a lesson on that one.
So that's really about reading the room, right?
Well, the room was doing great. Everyone except for the CEO. And sometimes that's the only person you have to make laugh. I've been in rooms where I didn't think I had a good show at all. And I tell the agent afterwards, boy, that was a hard show. And get a call the next day and go, the CEO loved you. And that's the only person I had to make love me was the CEO. But I still didn't, think it was a great show.
So there's a parallel there with sales. And reading the room and reading your ideal target audience.
Right. Don't go in you don't want to go in with a prepared, I'm going to say these jokes. Because you got to toss out a few things. And if it's not, as any salesperson knows, if it's not the direction you should go, stop,
What are those cues that you're picking up on?
Well, this guy was the
arms folded, glaring.
Yeah. You can tell by people's body language. I mean, if people are enjoying it, think it's funny, think you're being silly, think or think you're being a jerk, you can tell pretty quick. But so pay attention. Certainly, situational awareness and what's going. In fact, I've gotten myself in trouble when I'm not paying attention to the whole room. I did an event one time, and mostly women. And there was one guy in the back of the room, really cute guy, about maybe early 20s, right out of college. And I started joking with him about dating. And I saw him get really embarrassed, so I stopped. And I went on and just ended up the show. And afterwards, the women came up and said, "Oh, my goodness, we're so glad you joked with him. He never talks about dating." And I felt terrible because he didn't want any attention. He was sitting in the back trying to, be quiet. And I didn't pay attention to his body language. Luckily, I didn't do much on him, but I still thought, okay, they might have thought it was funny. I didn't like that I did that. So yeah,
I do think there's a big gulf, isn't there, between what is acceptable depending on which environment you're in. So, you go to a comedy club. I've been to a comedy club, and if you have to go to the bathroom, oh dear, it's all sorts of a whole world of pain. So like this guy that you had the joke with about dating, they see that you're uncomfortable with the fact that you're the center of attention, and they just love it. And then they go for the joke.
Yeah.
But obviously, when it is a more formal business context, it's great to inject a bit of humor. But
don't keep pounding it. Yeah.
Yeah, in this country, we have a group called the Institute of Directors, and everybody who runs a company can join the Institute of Directors. And they have lots of local groups, as well as having the big headquarters in London. They have lots of local groups around the country, and some of those local groups are active. They have like monthly breakfast meetings or lunches. And one particular one that I went to when I lived in just outside London, there was every month they had a breakfast, and every month they had paid for a speaker to come. Mm-hmm. These speakers would talk about business by comparison with sport or whatever, and there would be a sportsman that would come along and speak, and there would be someone else that's famous for this. And this one guy had been a company director, and I forget which company it was that he was the chief executive of, but it was like a global organization. And he'd retired.
Is this Ratner's?
It isn't, because he's a brilliant speaker. But this guy, it wasn't General Electric, but it was something like General Electric, a British company. And he stood up, and everybody in the audience thought, this is going to be brilliant, because he's going to share some of his experiences of running this like uber successful organization and how he transformed it during his tenure as chief executive. And he stood up and he just told a stream of vacuous one-line jokes.
No.
And it was horrendous. And I kid you not, there were 150 people in the audience, and every one of them was going, "Oh God." Because
really? Was he trying out his new comedy routine? What?
well, he had decided that he was going to be. He has moved from chief executive, where he was earning a 7-figure salary, to he'd always wanted to be a professional speaker, and he thought the way to do that was just to tell jokes. But they were just stupid jokes, like the sort of jokes you would tell to your 5-year-old nephew, and they would laugh.
It's all about expectations. Okay, clearly he missed his expectation. He didn't. Whoever he talked to, he didn't let him know what he was, or figure out what he was supposed to do there. Because, God, a lot of different ways to go with this. In comedy clubs, you mentioned comedy clubs. People are afraid to get up. When people hear a comedian at a corporate event, sometimes they're afraid. It's like, no, it's a whole different animal. Funny speaker at a convention, whole different animal. Comedy club, the comedian has to win. We have to be the funniest in the room. We have to make fun. We can do whatever we want. In the corporate world, we have to. Sometimes the CEO, you can't always be the winner. When somebody's yelling something at, someone's drunk or something yelling at you, you can't slam them like that, And people a lot of times hear there's a comedian, they're like, "Oh no, it's just going to be a bunch of jokes or funny keynote speaker. Oh, it's just going to be somebody up there telling jokes," and that is such not what I do anyway. Kick off with some humor, but use it and show people how to use humor in business. I don't go up there and just joke. But the expectations so many times are, "Oh gosh, it's a comedian." I can't tell you how many times I've had people come up to me after a show and say, "Oh, we have to apologize. A woman comedian, we thought it was going to be awful," because they think women are awful or they're dirty or something. And it was just great. That was in comedy clubs. And I've had people come up after keynotes and go, "Oh my goodness, I usually don't like funny speakers, but you were great. You had a great balance of it. You weren't like joke. But that guy clearly didn't do his homework, or the organizer didn't say, "Here's what we want you to talk about." And I always have a conference call ahead of time, say, "What do you need? What do you want?"
I think it was more about the fact that he was completely devoid of talent. I think that was the problem. It had little to do with the fact that his material didn't hit the bullseye. It was more to do with the fact that he was useless.
Well, also, as I said, comedians start small. We start with 3 minutes at an open mic here in the US, because you can't go in at a 60 minutes and do stand-up or a 60-minute keynote off the top of your head. You have to start small and work it up to it.
It felt like it was a lot longer than 60 minutes.
And in the office, when you're trying to use your humor muscle, do not decide you're going to roll in there with a 5-minute routine. Find one thing, start slow, find one thing that you find is funny, or one funny thing that happened, or one funny thing about you, and then roll in and start with that. And it builds. You get a little bit of laughter, and all of a sudden, you think, "Oh, this is kind of fun." And,
There was a speaker at the Institute of Directors conference called Gerald Ratner. And Gerald Ratner used to own what was a jewelers called Ratner's, which had 1,500 shops, which is that's pretty much in every single high street in the UK.
Nice.
And he stood up and he said, and he'd actually was doing a presentation he'd given many times before, except he didn't, at this particular one at the Institute of Directors, the press were there, and he stood up and he said, "Our products are crap." And the whole of it. And the whole, all of it, nobody went to his shops, and it just went into, within a week.
Why did he say that?
The build-up was that he said about this pair of earrings, didn't he? He said, "Look at this pair of earrings. We sell these for £10. Do you know how we sell them for £10? Because they're crap. That's how."
There's got to be more backstory on that. Wow, that's.
Google Gerald Ratner at the IOD. You'll probably find out.
Okay, interesting. I know my sister said once in college she started out with had to do a speech, and she said she started out saying, "My dad told me whenever you start a speech you should start out with a joke, but I never listened to his advice anyway, so I'm not doing that," or something funny. It was and everyone, "Oh yeah," but boy, cutting down your company. Was he trying to be funny? Wow. Okay.
Mark, you're on fire today. Mark says, "I once had a job at a paperless office. Everything was great until I needed to use the bathroom."
All right, he's getting better. See, they get better as you
He's warming up.
He's
Yeah.
right.
So Mark actually makes the comment. He said, "What about ornaments and pictures in the office? I have some in my office that are funny conversation starters, e.g., John Wayne film sales. It helps break the tension with customers and suppliers."
Exactly.
And Andrew Slesser responds to Mark saying, "Get off your horse and drink your milk."
Okay, see, but it does. Yeah, things will spark humor or let people know you have a that you're open to humor, that you're funny. You don't always have to be saying it. Put some things in your.
Is everybody funny?
I think some people are funny without being trying to be funny, aren't they? There was a friend of mine that once someone referred to him as having a self-defecating sense of humour, which obviously was a great deal funnier than they thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I don't know if everyone's funny, but I think people can be funnier than they think they can. I would say that, and I think a lot of people don't even go there because they think, that's somebody else. I was only told one time I should be a comedian back in high school. That I was funny, rather not be a comedian, but that I was funny. Back in high school, they have those superlatives, like at the end of the year, like best dressed and most athletic, and I'm better than you. All those things they vote people. And my friend Judy said, "You say funny stuff. I'm going to put you down as funniest." So I got 2 votes, me and Judy. But at our high school reunion years later, she said, "Oh, you're a comedian. That's just great." Everyone else was like, "Really? You're a comedian? Like, are you still living at home with mom and dad? Because we've never heard of you." So, just because no one thinks you're funny doesn't mean you shouldn't go out and try. Why not?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, you have some good comments there. Your buddy Mark is getting better.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on do you guys?
Have you got any more questions?
Yeah. Oh, more questions. Great.
I didn't see anything else. Did I miss one?
Do's and don'ts in the workplace.
Yeah. What about?
Oh, yeah.
Adds to everyone. What's your take on the do's and don'ts of the workplace wit?
I kind of gave a few rules, but I would say, yeah, just don't only make fun of a group you're a member of. You can self-deprecating humor. Don't go for the cheap shots. Don't go for the obvious things that people have heard a million times. People are a little tired of that. Do the stuff that you think is truly funny. Watch, as I said, sex, drugs, rock and roll, probably politics. Watch hot topics that are divisive. Don't make fun of someone's effort. If somebody did a lot of effort on something and there's something on a big party, say, and I don't know, that one of the decorations looks horrible. If you didn't do the decoration, don't make fun of that. That person might feel bad. If they're making fun of it, sure, you can have some fun, but don't go in there and cut down other people. For workplace humor, we're comedy club, say what you want.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Jen, this has been great. Thank you.
Brilliant.
How can people get in touch with you? How can they learn more about you?
My website, because nobody can spell my last name, McInnis. So they all want to put a G in it, like the beer. So you can go to LinkedIn. You can Jan McInnis, if you can screenshot that. Or my website is theworklady.com. I did a lot of work humor, so theworklady.com.
Excellent. Thank you. If you have something to say, we want to hear from you. Scan the QR code on screen or visit us at digitaldownload.live and fill in the Be Our Guest application form. On behalf of our panelists, to our guest, Jan, to our audience, Mark, Andrew, all that have shared comments, thank you all. And we will see you next time on the Digital Download.
Thank you.